Welcome, everybody, to another special episode of Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Hill. We have a special co-host tonight, Taryn Kerper from Paranormal Brew, and
Hi.
our special guest, Karen Broussard from the hit show on Travel Channel, Ghost Town Terror. Welcome. Thank you
Hello.
for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Karen.
So, I want to kind of get started here. I've watched the show. Taryn, I know you said you had watched the show.
Mhm.
I like the show. There was kind of a lot to unpack with some of that, but I kind of wanted to just start a little bit with some of Karen's history of, where you're from, Karen, and how you got started with the Ghost Singers Gulch and the bed and breakfast and everything. So I will let you take over in that area.
Okay, I'm gonna reposition my phone here because I have it sitting in my window, and I just got an overheat message. So
Oh, okay.
give me just 1 second to move it out of the sun. There we
Okay.
go.
Okay.
What was the question again?
Yeah. So just tell us a little bit. I wanted to kind of go back a little bit with the history of you and your family and how you kind of came across this property and what your hopes in doing with this thing was. Like I said, not to take away from the show or anything like that, but I really wanted, I have you on the show. I really want to talk with you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So go ahead.
My kid.
Oh no, we
Oh,
lost.
her phone overheated. It did. This is what happened to me when I was in Gettysburg.
Really?
Yeah. If it gets too hot, if she has a cover on it, she might want to take the cover off. You know how like sometimes because that can make it overheat too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm not being rude. I'm just sharing this out everywhere. So
Right.
I'm not looking down.
No. It's all
But
good.
yeah, so this is what happened to me when I was in Gettysburg, and I wound up having to go get a new phone, but it kept overheating because it being in the dash cam.
Mm-hmm.
She may just have to hold it.
Yeah. Right. So how are you, Taryn?
I'm okay. Lot going on.
Yeah.
Today I not to put a damper on anything, really quick. We have a beloved family member of our paranormal community, Bill Freeman, who is basically on hospice care now.
Oh no.
Very, very good friend of mine. He ran Selma Mansion in Norristown, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So I did a GoFundMe. There was fundraisers and stuff. When he was diagnosed with cancer, it wasn't it was low cell. So they weren't expecting this. And so quickly, like within 4 weeks, so went and saw him today, tried to make myself happy. And, most girls go buy clothes. No, I went and bought a 5-gallon bucket of paint, some lights to put, I'm like house stuff.
Right.
So you are my saving grace to happiness.
Okay. All right.
No pressure.
No pressure. All right. Well, we have
Hi,
Karen
everybody.
back, so we're gonna add her back to the stream.
Oh,
there
good.
she is.
Awesome.
It happens. We get it. We totally understand. So
I told you technology is not my friend, so I have a backup phone. Thank goodness.
I'm with you, girlfriend. I'm with you.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So let's go back to the question of just how you got started and a little bit about your family and and what led you to Gunslingers Gulch.
All right. Well, my kids and I are originally from Washington State. We live just north of Seattle, and it was one of those times in my life where I was just kind of looking for a change, and I was ready to move and move on with the next chapter of my life. And while we were searching for property, there was actually a couple properties that we had in mind, and we did the whole homicide whiteboard with the pros and the cons, and we put a lot of thought into this purchase, and ultimately, we just decided that this was where we wanted to be. And it had kind of just popped up randomly on my computer one day, and I just was like, there's a sign.
Right.
And so
But now
here we are.
You said you were looking to relocate, or you were looking for somewhere to move, and that popped up.
Yeah, so I had been looking in a number of states for property, because we wanted to move. We were ready, and I don't know. I guess maybe I was still searching while I shut my computer one day, and the next morning I opened up my computer, and when my screen loaded up, there was the ad for this property.
And
now, you weren't looking for it in a paranormal sense. You were just looking, or were you looking to start something?
I was just looking for property. I wanted property with some acreage, because it was really important for us to just kind of have our space and be able to kind of be out on our own a little bit. We wanted to be a little bit more rural and remote, and we definitely found that here.
I would say so. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit of the background history of the property itself, of who was selling it and why?
Yeah, so it was originally created by a woman named Sherry, and she is the one who had posted. She's actually in Florida, and she had posted this property on Craigslist of all places in Seattle. Wow. And so that's how I came across it. And she started this back in like the late 90s, I guess. And she had just started, to salvage some of these older buildings that were, scheduled for demo, or people who needed them torn down or moved. And she just had this vision to create this little old Western, ghost town, mining ghost town, themed dude ranch. So she did all that. She did all the heavy work on this property. I can't take credit for it at all. But she was quite the visionary for sure.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you too, because I noticed, like, when I was watching, going into all of the different buildings, they all seem to be preserved, or maybe decored, or they look all very well maintained and so cozy.
Yeah, well, they've all been upgraded with those modern amenities that everybody is used to. So they've all got electricity, they've got heat, they've got water, they've got full bathrooms, and it's a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work to maintain them. Because they're all 100 plus years old. Some of them are pushing 200 years old. So
wow.
So some of these buildings are basically were moved to this location from Anaconda and Butte, Montana, correct?
Yeah, from pretty much the general local areas. We don't know exactly where all of them have come from, but I do have some of them have been identified. So from Anaconda and Phillipsburg are two of the primary areas. The Red Lions mine, which is not too far from us.
So now that you have these buildings and you have this property, what was your first thought when you decided to say, hey, okay, I guess I'm buying a town, so where do we go from here?
Well, yeah, we knew that, ultimately we would be utilizing it as a bed and breakfast, as well as a filming location. We were gonna max out as many opportunities with the property as we could.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of employment opportunities out here in this area of Montana where I'm at, so I knew whatever I was going to get, I was going to have to put it to work for me, so to say.
Right.
So do people rent some of the places?
Yeah, so I have 6 units that are finished that we do rent out to guests.
Oh,
Oh,
And
awesome.
wow.
we've got a few more that are um, on the list to get done, but it's definitely a huge undertaking and a huge project. And we bought this in kind of like the dead of like snowmageddon winter when we moved
Right.
out here, and
Snowmageddon.
then we were turning around and hit with COVID, so that really kind of
Put a
knocked a
damper
lot of
on
wind out
everything.
of our sail for a
Yeah.
year and a half,
Right.
2 years.
Right.
Hmm.
So when did you decide to make one of the saloon a bed and breakfast? I mean, was that something right away, or just something that you said, "Hey, we can do this. We can make this what it is."
Yeah, it was pretty much a built-in decision, when we looked at the property, and we knew what we were getting, and we knew what it had been used for in the past. And there hasn't really been anybody out here for many years. I mean, the property sat empty, I think, longer than it has ever been occupied.
Hmm.
And there was a couple of people along the way that had tried to make a run with it and were, fortunately for me, not very successful. So that allowed us to be able to get in here and pick this up. But we knew pretty much immediately that that's what we were going to be doing with the property. That's what it was intended for.
Right.
And when you say we,
My
uh,
kids and I.
okay, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that
Yeah.
you include them in
Right.
Yeah.
decision making for it. Like I love that. Like I think that's awesome. That you take that their opinions and their stuff. I noticed that on the show. I'm only saying that for people who haven't seen it. I love that you take kind of like this family meeting and it's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. What do you think? What do you think? Like everybody's opinions matter. You're not just
Mhm.
like, I am mom, hear me roar, and this is what's happening.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people have that perception, but no, there's not a decision that happens around here that I am not including them in, and asking their opinion. And they're my children, they're adult children, and they're kind of learning the whole business world out here with this project,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
what it takes to have to make some of these decisions that they're not necessarily as simple as they seem. And
Mhm.
so it's been a great family venture. And I you know I am not blind that I'm not going to be around forever, but this property will with them. So
Well, that's
Right.
what
Right.
I'm saying. Yeah,
they
you're
know it.
kind
They will know it inside and out because
yeah,
they are the
Mhm.
right and the left hands out here. So
right.
Every once in a while, we'll take a question from our viewers.
mhm.
I will ask you. Well, actually, I will have this person. How many ghosts are there that you know of?
Oh, oh boy, that I know of. Let's see. There's probably about 18 that I've identified
Okay.
throughout the property.
Okay.
Um, and they're fairly consistent throughout the various buildings. There's
Okay.
plenty more that do come and go.
Right. Like it's kind of like I, where I would do my podcast, the mansion. It was kind of I called it like a way station where spirits would come and go. Spirits
Hmm.
would kind of traipse through and not stay long, but long enough either to make an impression or even nothing, and then just go. And so
Yes.
yeah, so I think that that's exactly what you have there too, is what I call a way station. It's
And
kind of
and
crude,
they
but
do have a different feeling to them. You can
oh
definitely
yeah,
tell when it's
everyone.
a
Oh yeah,
newcomer.
yep, yep, yep. Oh, that's something new. Didn't expect that. I mean that way.
Yeah, this feels different.
Yeah. Right.
So I have like a two-part, I guess a two-part question. One, going back really quick, you say you rent out. Now, do you rent out like contracted, like people stay there for 6 months or to a year, or are you renting out to people that want to come in and investigate, or are you renting out to people that are just staying there in the area? And
Yeah,
good.
vacation rental. we're not actually on like Airbnb or anything like that. But same concept. It's alternative to a motel or a hotel. It's a very
Hmm.
different experience. So we do, one night. We've had people stay for a week. Um, but I don't do long term because the buildings are not set up for that. And
Right, right, right.
we live out here full time, even in the winter, and it's a challenge. But
Yeah.
the units themselves are just not set up for full-time living.
Now, do you have somebody that monitors the property with you? I mean, besides your family? I mean, because
No.
having it being where you just have, you rent out these places, and it's kind of, it's easy not to say that maybe there's some shady characters that want to rent from you. You know what I mean? And that's kind of scary in a sense. You know what I mean? So I didn't know if you
Yeah,
had somebody that kind of watches the property, or, so.
yeah, knock
Spirit
on
watch
wood.
the property.
Knock on wood, we haven't had any trouble. We do get a lot of looky-loos, and we do need to kind of run them out every once in a while. My no trespassing signs typically only work for the people that are supposed to be here.
Right.
Anybody else, they just seem to ignore them. But we do, try and keep our gate locked, especially like if we're not home, and
Okay.
if we just don't want to be bothered to try and keep people out. But even then, it's kind of like a known thing in Montana. You just don't open a gate and go in, and unfortunately, it does happen because the curiosity is definitely peaked
It's
in a lot of
it's
people.
definitely there. Yeah, yeah. So I was just kind of curious about that, but
When
so let's talk a little bit about some of the buildings itself. I mean, with these buildings, were you able to get a little information on each one, or you just kind of like, this is what they are, this is where we think they came from, and that's it?
It's been a giant puzzle trying to piece this all
Right.
together. There's been a few buildings that we have gotten really fortunate in discovering, who used to live there and where it came from. We've been able to talk with family members to get a lot of history and background on,
Hmm.
their great, great, great grandparents that used to own it.
Right. Right.
Um, there are
And that's
some,
awesome in itself. I mean, that's
oh, it's
that's
incredible.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
that is really because that allows us to kind of put a face and a name to some of the
Hmm.
activity that's taking place in certain buildings for sure.
Right. Right. Right.
But some buildings they're a mystery.
Hmm.
We just don't know. In fact, I just found out like probably a month or two ago that my log cabin and a couple of the other log structure buildings that we have up here came from the Red Lions mine, which is it's only about 17 or 19 miles away from here up in the mountains. But what an incredible piece of history, to have
Hmm.
something like that.
Oh, for
Right.
sure.
Right.
So it's almost as if the spirits were brought there.
Well, I
You know?
think, property houses can hold memory, land can hold memory,
Absolutely.
objects, you hear about haunted dolls and things like that all the time. They can pass owners a million times and it's still going to be a haunted doll. Um, and I think we have a combination here of um, structure-based spirits and
Hmm.
land-based spirits.
Now, the
Hmm. Hmm.
previous owner, though, I mean, did she ever experience anything? Like, did you reach out to her after you had your first experience, which I would love to hear? Um,
You know, I never reached out to her, and she never told me, the any experiences that she had or the extent to what she experienced. So that clip with her in episode 1 where they were interviewing her and
right.
she was talking about, her the impact that this property has had on her and what she experienced. That was all totally new. In fact, that was the first time I'd actually ever seen her
Oh,
because I had
Oh,
wow.
only ever
wow.
I had only ever talked to her, during the purchase transaction. And that was the first time I'd actually ever seen her and heard anything. And I totally understand. It's not like she can put that in her for sale ad. The
Right.
property,
Yeah.
has haunted me to this day, and I wanted to kill myself. Um, and then, the people that were in between, there was one guy that was here, and unfortunately, I heard he went a little crazy, and then he went back to Colorado and killed himself.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And
That's
then,
what really gave me the willies, was that.
So
So,
do you
yeah,
think when you bought the property, you're thinking, okay, this is great, this is what we wanted. Then you start having these experiences. Do you find yourself, and take away the TV, take away, all of the because I'm sure that the attention, I know for myself anyway, and this might sound a little ignorant, but I mean the attention would probably make me feel good, right? But I know that you didn't always have such a great experiences there. So do you feel that that you bought it and then all this stuff is happening? Do you feel that this has made you feel closer to the properties and closer to this and feeling like, or do you feel that this is like, oh my gosh, what did I do now? Like this was a
all of the above.
mistake.
Yeah, when it first started happening, at first, we would each experience something, and nobody wanted to say anything because we were like, okay, no, let me just see if it happens again, or let me see if somebody else says something first. And there was an incident that happened, and we were all in the same room, and we all kind of looked at each other and we're like, did you see that? And from that point on, we started talking about different things that had happened or we had experienced. And it's not new for us. It's not new for our family to experience paranormal activity.
That was my next question.
It has been in my family for generations. My mother, my grandmother, it's typically the women that are in our family that are more sensitive to it. But my brother's, he has a tremendous ability. He's a very, very high functioning clair in many levels. And it's not new. It's not a new phenomenon for us. So we're not completely freaked out. But there have been some times where, we're like, oh, what did we get ourselves into?
Right. The one thing that I did notice even on the first episode of the gifts that you or your daughter portrays, I mean, instantaneously knew that, okay, she's got a pretty bright light. So I'm sure that's probably transcended, like you said, from ancestry down the line. And so that makes sense when you say that what I had seen. So, it's you guys are kind of like, here, let's go into this haunted location and put up a big huge spotlight because that's where we are. And
pretty much, yeah.
So I mean, it's just, but you know what? I mean, things like that, they're supposed to happen that way. I mean, you never know. Maybe you can handle or help somebody, to cross over or something like that. Like the one girl that lost her jaw and all that, and that freaked me out too. And it was such a sad story. I can't remember what her name was because it was in the beginning of
that was Teresa Evans. She was a granddaughter. She was the granddaughter of she might have even been the great granddaughter, but to Catherine Harrington in the saloon building.
Yeah, her story is sad in itself. I mean, it's just, so I could tell that when Sarah on the show, the medium that was Sarah Lamos, who people don't know who she is, she was also on Morgan City, or Ghosts of Morgan City. She's really good at what she does. When she was coming across with saying what she was seeing, and that was something that I had noticed as well. And knowing her story, that was really sad. And so with the history that goes on with this property, and even in the buildings itself, there's so many different elements that can put into play to this place, and I can see that, it's probably a different level of emotions, emotions that you've gone through since you've owned it, So, but,
Yeah,
I just,
definitely each building has its own um its own
Energy.
field of energy.
Yeah.
mhm,
There's some that are like the boarding house is just a very sad, it just you know a very, very sad building.
mhm,
And
mhm.
a lot of I won't go into details on what I feel, because we don't know what's going to be happening next. But
Right,
um
right.
there's definitely a difference between like that and log cabin. That is
Oh, yeah.
definitely more on
Yeah.
the aggressive side. And
Mhm,
um
mhm. Did you ever get the history on the church?
yeah, so the church actually came, I don't know a lot. I know it came from a place in Phillipsburg. Um, and it came from a place called like Yardley Ranch or something like that. And we've been trying to
Mhm,
track down information on, the location and who the Yardleys were. And, it sounds like they were a pretty prominent family for the area.
mhm,
An old name for the area at least, and just haven't had any success. And, there's this little cubby that's in there that has like a bunch of old books,
mhm.
and the old like encyclopedias from like 1950s, and just various old weird books. And I get the feeling that I should just leave them, just don't touch those books.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
a couple weeks ago my son was actually like, I'm gonna dust them off at least. And um he had some papers fall out, um
Mhm.
some like handwritten notes,
Oh, that's
that
sweet.
were
Yeah. I love
like
stuff like that.
two brother Yardley or something like that. So I don't know if they were in, I don't know. And it was talking about a meeting that was moved, and it was just kind of creeped me out. I don't know.
When you find mysterious things like that, especially letters in a book that are supposedly in a haunted location, yeah, that would creep me out too.
Yeah, it's like I just don't know if I should read it.
Right, right. Well, you have to realize too that all these people have passed; they're not around anymore. But it still kind of begs the question: should I be doing that?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just
So
think it's
it's like I don't even
fascinating.
want to touch them. So
Yeah,
to pick up a piece of paper and read it out of it was kind of freaky.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what though? Sometimes I think when that stuff happens, it's almost as if the universe wanted the story to be told. However that's happening.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it was meant to be found for some
exactly.
reason.
Right.
Mhm,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
mhm.
A
And
piece to the puzzle.
right. And I feel the same with each building. For some
Mhm.
Mhm,
reason, each of these buildings are there for a reason,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
mhm.
yeah.
it's just fascinating to me that I've never heard of anything like that where somebody just picks a spot and be like, you know what? I'm going to buy this building over here in Phillipsburg. I'm going to buy this building over here, and let's just put it all together in one spot and let's have fun.
Yeah,
Fun,
yeah.
not fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's it's quite the energy field up here at times. And it's
Right.
very interesting because just driving up the driveway, you hit a certain point in the driveway, and you just feel it. It's like
Mhm.
you're driving through this like dome, and the whole atmosphere changes.
Mhm.
So
Oh, yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
pretty big sphere.
Right. And having it be, in the Old West is a big thing for me. I love anything about the Old West, but the land itself speaks volumes. I mean, you had, gold miners and silver people, and
Hmm.
everything over there. The mines and the history and the foot traffic that would cross that land, or even in that gulch. You wonder, how many people have been through here, or been, through this path, or been through all these buildings. So it just kind of begs the question of, if you if I could go back in time, would I, you know, what would I see? And I mean, so,
Exactly.
and so that's the whole thing. So when I first saw the show, or I actually saw the preview of that, and I thought this was really interesting, and the story behind it. And so hence why I reached out to you right away, because I really had to know the history. I really wanted to know.
Hmm.
And I was actually kind of surprised that you replied back and that you said you wanted to, because I don't know, you had a TV show coming up, so but come to find out, you're a very down to earth person, and yeah,
Salt of the earth. Salt of
yeah, yeah, it's and so it's very humbling in that sense to have, even Taryn and you on the show is I'm blessed in that way. So to be able to talk about a passion for me like the Old West is something that's without dispute. But can you tell me a little bit about how, if you can, about how the Travel Channel show came into view?
Yeah, well, as things started going on around here, and we had some film crews that were up here, and they had experiences, and they were talking about what they experienced, and we were talking about what we'd all experienced, and then it's like, well, maybe I just need to kind of maybe I need to bring somebody else in here and kind of get an idea of what we're dealing with. And I had a couple of other, local paranormal groups come in, that they had kind of caught wind on some of the stuff that was going on. And, I just kind of really was like, yeah, I don't really know if you're what I'm looking for. They were kind of very way off base from what we knew already.
Right.
And, so I think kind of the word had just gotten out that, and I had talked to a lot of people, just trying to get information on the area. And I think the word just kind of got out about us. And, I had been on some paranormal boards or something on Facebook, and, just talking with various people about things. And then I got a phone call, and they're like, would you be, kind of open for this? And I'm like, why not? Let's see what'll happen.
Right.
And,
Right.
a lot of people think that this was like some big, publicity promotional thing. And, if they think it's that easy to get a TV show, call the network and just say, hey, can you come do a movie or show with me?
Right.
It was a very long process. I mean, I think between them coming out and doing some initial stuff and then actually making that decision to move forward with the show, I mean, we're talking, it was like a 1.5-year project before they even started filming.
Mm-hmm.
So
and here's the other thing too, like, I always think about this because ever since I've been investigating, I mean, I've been doing it, I've been in this 15 years now, and I remember something my brothers would always say to me, like, oh, everywhere you go is haunted. I'm like, well, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's the person or the people. Like, you could go, I could walk in a building 25,000 times and never feel anything. And then I walk in there with Jay, and Jay might be like, whoa, there's a woman here, because I feel like the person also contributes to, or the people contribute, because if they know you can see and hear them and you're open to it, they're going to be more active. They're going to be more, willing to come forward or more willing to make themselves known. So even if previous people didn't have experiences there, that does not mean that what you guys are going through or what you guys are experiencing isn't happening.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And I always tell my guests, if you're looking for it, you're not going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just going about your day and you have to question yourself, did I see that or did I hear that? Then you probably did. And, every individual is going to have a different experience because some people are just not open to it at all. So it would, make sense that they're not going to experience anything.
I like
Investigators
with different antennas, right? I mean, my antenna might be facing this way or that way. It might be shorter, might be longer, so you are going to have everybody's going to have different experiences,
Right.
Absolutely. And each investigator, they're going to have a different experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of them, they have their own way of doing things and their own way of seeing things. So, I can have 2 or 3 different investigators in here, and each one might pick up something different, but yet there might be that common thread somewhere amongst them. So
Have you gotten any backlash? Have you gotten any backlash from anyone?
I can even answer that because I've seen the post, some of the posts on the.
No,
Yeah.
I'm asking just in case there's people that haven't, that aren't aware of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and and it's unfortunate that people will they think they know everything about you from, less than 6 hours on TV.
Right.
Yep.
6 hours of footage that was edited down from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage. And, they're going to base their opinion on you, on what kind of person you are based on what they've seen on an edited version on TV.
Right.
So it's out there. There's been both ends of the spectrum. There's been like the extreme on the positive side, and then the extreme on the negative. And I'll tell you, those extreme negative people, man, they love to be heard. They just love to put their
common trolls. Yeah, common trolls. I've read some of those, and I've seen them, and I don't engage because I just I just don't like to do that. But I've seen some really nasty ones. And
it's a shame people feel they have to do that stuff. It's like if you don't like it, move on. Like I mean,
exactly. I don't think that I've ever hated anything so much that I'm going to seek it out and go for the jugular online.
Right.
I don't understand why they're spending so much time
and energy
hating on it. It's like, well, thanks for watching, but I mean, don't you have anything better to do?
Right. My camera guy, my friend Josh, that I've done some investigation with, asked this question: are you open to movies filming there?
Absolutely.
There's your answer, Josh. All right.
Yeah, we've done a few of them since we've been here.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
So what was your?
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
You do it. You get 2 show hosts there, right? We both are like.
two hosts. Yeah. So getting a little bit back to the show, was there something in particular that happened during the filming of this show that did not happen before the filming of the show?
Is there something that happened while filming that didn't happen before?
Yeah.
Well, I think
when you said when you're filming, you said that's new.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was kind of shocking to me. That, and again, I think that it comes down to the investigator's perception and possibly some self-reflection. They really took it to the extreme on the angle that they did, and we have not really experienced things to the degree of which they portrayed that. We have had some dark, you can definitely tell when there's a spirit that just doesn't want you in their space.
Yes.
And it's not that they're doing anything,
maliciously or anything like that.
They're not being malicious. They're not really doing anything, but they let it be known. And Log Cabin is that one for Chloe and I. He just doesn't. He doesn't like women. He doesn't want people in his space. And I think lately he's been venturing around town, and because we have picked up him in there as well as down in the saloon.
Oh.
So he has ventured out.
if these energies were attached to the properties or the buildings, and the buildings are moved from where they originally were, you know, the energies that are attached to each property, they're probably like, where the heck am I at? What is going on?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Last thing I remember, I was in New
I was
Jersey.
on Fifth Street
Now
in
I'm
Butte, Montana.
Exactly. Where's my neighbor?
Right.
Yeah, so I imagine, and keep in mind, these buildings have been up here now for 20 some odd years. But they're probably still in a state of confusion, and then you
Right.
throw in the fact that we have so many people coming and going. It's just this constant door that's being
Right.
opened, and
Right.
new energies coming in for them to be, affected by. And yeah, they're probably like, what the heck?
Now,
Now,
do you do? Go ahead.
no, do you have guests or tenants, I guess I should say, that come just for the paranormal?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask the same exact question. I'm like, do you open it up for paranormal investigators to come and investigate and do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we do. We did keep that very limited prior to the show. And I still will keep it very limited because, especially right now, everybody that contacts me is an investigator, or they are a sensitive, or a medium, or a psychic, or they've all. But I can't let everybody in,
Right.
and
Right.
I certainly don't want to let somebody in who doesn't know what they're doing, because they can open up a whole new can of worms for me.
Oh yeah. And those people are a dime a dozen.
Yep.
They're, I get them every day, and luckily I have a very, very strong sense about people who contact me about that, and it's like, no, you're just not the one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. And that goes back to even to me. I mean, even when I get friend requests, which is wonderful, I kind of go through 'em. I kind of go through them with a fine tooth comb.
yeah,
I want to surround myself with people that are a positive venture.
Yeah.
And it's not somebody that's going to create drama and
Absolutely.
just crazy stuff.
yeah. Well, and out here, I just cannot have somebody that thinks that they know what they're doing, and we've all been very adamant on like no Ouija boards and things like that, for many reasons. And so when they brought it out on the show, I was kind of like, ugh. But I don't need somebody up here playing around with a Ouija board when I have so much going on already that
Definitely not.
opens something up, and then doesn't know how to close it out, and
right.
just.
And you know what? Honestly, Karen, it's your property.
Right.
Yeah.
You say, this is what I don't want, and if you say why, I say, because I said so.
Exactly.
I mean, you really don't have to have a reason. I mean, it's your property. I mean, you can basically, I'm friends with the woman that owns Rolling Hills Asylum in New York. And she's very much, she'll let you run amok in that place. I mean, the place is loaded, but she's the same way. She has her certain rules. And a lot of people take that wrong. They think that, so she's being a bee, or I'm like, that's her property. Like, she lives there. She has to live there and stay there.
Well, that's the key is, I don't think a lot of people understand that, this is still our home.
Right.
And we open it up for people to come and enjoy, and, we will host paranormal events, but it's going to be done in a very safe manner, and not leave me with a lot of residual cleanup.
Yes, exactly.
I then have to take care of.
Yep. There's enough of that right now. I mean,
yeah. The ones I have up here exhaust me already. I don't need a new.
Right. You don't need any more.
New troublemaker.
No. Right. So go ahead. No, it's your turn now, Taryn. You can ask.
So the buildings that you feel are more on the negative side, are you close those off to people that you feel aren't seasoned or aren't, that in fear that maybe things might happen, or do you say here's a waiver?
I say here's the key. No. I have one unit that is locked up, and I don't let anybody go in there. I don't go in there. My kids won't go in there. It's something about it, and it's not that it feels really dark or evil, but there is just something about it that we don't need to be there. And eventually I will get around to spending some time up there and doing some investigation, hopefully with somebody. But as it is, it's kind of weird. It's like, it's got this like back door entrance that nobody even knows about. So it's like, people don't really even know it's there. But my log cabin, is probably my most requested unit right now. Everybody wants to stay in a log cabin. So
that is so crazy to me.
Yeah,
like me, I'm like, no, Karen, I'm good. You put me in where Casper's at, I'm fine. Like,
put me in the safe and sane one, the Bunny Hill unit.
That's me.
But and again, he's not really doing anything bad, but like my guests that just left, they had an experience in there, and they kind of weren't so sure if they wanted to talk about it, but and it wasn't anything evil, anything bad. She was taking a shower. She heard somebody walk in, and she called out thinking it was her mom, and it obviously wasn't. And so she kind of peeked out of the shower and wondering who was there, and noticed, okay, the door is locked. Nobody could come in. So,
yeah.
But see,
I don't know why they all like the bathrooms around here.
Water.
All my spirits have this gravitational pull towards bathrooms.
Yeah, it's a lot of it has probably to do with the water too.
Yeah, it could be.
It's an energy source, but now have you at one time at all ever thought maybe I should sell this place?
Yeah, I've had that thought many times. Every winter, actually. But I don't think there's enough money that can be offered to get me to sell this place. On many levels. There's many reasons why I just don't think I would ever sell it. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Do you find the activity is because you just said during the winter? Is it because you're cooped up a little bit more, so you're experiencing more, or do you find that the activity is a little different in the winter as opposed to the summer?
Or the weather just sucks.
Yeah, the weather just sucks. We got just feet of snow and negative 30 degrees and no insulation in these buildings. So yeah, it's brutal. The activity definitely changes with the seasons. Now, springtime, summertime, when there's a lot of guests that roll through here, we'll get a lot of little activity. The footsteps and the occasional I'm going to move something that you just set down kind of thing. In the winter time, when it starts slowing down and the guests aren't here as much, that's when we get more apparition type stuff. And I don't know if it's because they've stored up energy from a season full of guests or what, but or they're just tired of everybody being here and they can finally be like, whew, time to relax. But it's definitely different in the seasons, and I don't know.
Well, that's true because like the solstices, like the turn of like the summer solstice, the winter solstice. I mean, that's everywhere. People feel like a shift in the energy field.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
we definitely notice it out here with them. Because it is, I don't know, it's so hard to explain,
You might,
because
you might,
so
Mhm.
much happens and we're so used to it all the time that a lot of times we just don't even pay attention.
Right. Right. Um, there was Mike O'Dyer from Manchester, England, had a question. Do you see them or hear the dead? Mike from Manchester.
Do I see them or hear them?
Hear them.
Both actually. I have seen several apparitions, full body. I get a lot of the, out of the corner of my eye kind of thing. And I do hear them. Both Chloe and I are very audible, so we will pick up on conversations. I have had many instances where I've been in a building and I've heard somebody say something, and I will turn around thinking that maybe Chloe has come through the door and she's not there.
Right. Right.
So yeah,
any of them
sometimes
ever,
it still freaks me out.
any of them, you might have answered this, but any of them sound like each other? Is that what you mean? Where you thought it was Chloe, or like you ever hear like your name called and you thought it was one of them because it sounded exactly like them, or have they ever heard?
Yes, yes, we have one female. I think it's isolated to one female in the saloon and dining hall area who is very good at mimicking somebody else's voice.
Ooh,
So
So
like a
like when
doppelganger.
it's crazy. So we have picked up like EVPs and we've gotten EVPs of her talking, but we have to really question like, okay, that sounds a lot like, Chloe, but wait, Chloe wasn't even here at that
Right.
time.
Right. Right. Yeah. There's. It sounds to me like, from what I could tell too, that you probably do have a doppelganger in there somewhere. I mean, it's just. Um, I've ran into cases that have had a couple different doppelgangers. You know what a doppelganger is? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and they do voices without showing themselves too. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what about
that is
Yeah, I mean,
that
I can
that's
remember
crazy and creepy.
it
you?
is. It really is. I can remember one time when I was in the kitchen and I just very, very distinctly heard stop. And
Right.
I thought it was Chloe. So I kind of stepped out and I peeked through the door and what? Stop what? And there was nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was like clearly it was just like her voice, like she came up right behind me. And
That had to make you check a few things for a minute.
What about
yeah, a lot of things that happen, it doesn't really startle me, just like I said, because we're so used to it that, it's just like, okay, they're here again. But sometimes they'll do something that just really, it does make the hair on the back of my neck stand up still.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What about animals and pets and stuff like that? Have you noticed anything um, as far as the animal side of things being affected, or maybe seeing or hearing or feeling a dog, cat, whatever? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, have you ever had any experiences with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, actually, well, my dogs, I mean, they track stuff all the time. Um, and they will act and behave like, they're right there with somebody or sniffing a cat on a table and getting swatted on the nose and there's no cat there. But that's
Right.
the behavior that they're, expressing. And we do have two animal spirits here that we know of. We have a dog that has been seen, and a cat.
And a cat. Yeah, I've seen that cat before. That's
The
cool.
cat, yeah. We call him Stony, but that was probably one of our first um, experiences out here was the cat. You know, it's like I hear a cat, or I just saw a cat jump off a table, but there's no cat here. And then the dog that was laying underneath the table in the dining room, it got up and walked out and just disappeared before it hit the front door.
And this is where you stay. Like, this is where you live. You guys are residing in this house where you saw the animals.
Yeah, well, this was it down in the saloon area, but I have experienced the dog up in the church as well. That feeling when a dog's running past you to try and beat you to the door, and they brush up against your leg.
Yeah,
I've had that happen several times.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
That's
cool, because I've never had a dog experience, but I mostly I will pick up on cats a lot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a cat woman. I do love all animals, all living things. You know, I have a dog. I love everything, but I tend to, you know, I've had 5 cats at one point, you know, so cats to me are kind of like special. So
special is a loaded word.
They're special.
So yeah, Lexi Ray had a question for you.
It's a good one.
Do you notice if local wildlife stays away from the property?
No. We're the only time that we don't have wildlife here, if our deer are not here, that means a mountain lion is. So we have an abundance of wildlife.
Okay.
For sure.
So since you did the show, and I know you really can't go into it because you don't know what's going to be happening, but have they set, like, in a contract? I know this is answer what you can. I know that I know the specifics you can't, and I don't know if I'm asking it the right way either. But for example, let's say me and Jay were like, oh, can you get up and walk around the town? You know, you're on live, you're like on here. Or, you know, if people are coming in investigative wise and they want to go live on Facebook, or they want to do a live on YouTube, like, are there things set up in this contract where it's like they've told you, like, look, these are things that you can't do. You know, you can't.
Yeah, there are some limitations on what we can do. And I guess fortunately for us in that situation, if an investigation group wanted to go live, they're just not going to be able to.
Right.
Our internet will not allow them. And I mean, I even have a challenge sometimes. Like yesterday, I was going to do a live Q&A, and I went into town specifically so that I could get internet signal. And I think one of them followed me. I think Tom, my local Tom here, followed me, and he was like, "Nope, you're not talking online."
Oh, wow.
Because I couldn't get a signal in line. And some people sent me like some really freaky screenshot pictures that they got. And they creep me out. They creep me out big time.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, there's definitely things that we should not do, and we can't have happen while we're in this kind of spot that we're at.
So let's say that I mean, even if let's say you do 1 or 2 seasons, and then let's say that after that's over, and then would not the network pull out and say, okay, now everything is back to what you own, and this is, or, you know, the contract has been fulfilled and this and that, and then you could pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah, you know, I think so. And at that point, I guess it's just a matter of, you know, would we want to?
Right. Sure, it's tiring. Everything that.
Yeah.
Once the show came out and this all became known, I'm sure you haven't.
Yeah, it's been 24/7 chaos for sure. It's been very busy.
Do you feel isolated? Like, how far away is, like, in town to go to the grocery store and stuff? And when I ask you if you feel isolated, only because it is so active, you have so many spirits there, but do you feel isolated?
there are times where we feel very cut off. We do feel like we're kind of like in our own little world, a million miles away from anybody. But the reality is, we're only like 5 or 6 miles from town.
Oh,
But the
okay.
way the property is laid out and kind of nestled and tucked back up here in the hills, it's like, most of Anaconda didn't even know this place existed. They had no clue that this was here.
Right. Like I was gonna say, I'm
So
surprised. Like I'm surprised that there isn't some sort of like now like a secure, not on your behalf, not on your end of it, but I mean the show had to know. Like once this is out, you're on the map, right? You're on the map now, and people like you said
yeah,
try to come in there. I'm surprised that they wouldn't have at least assisted in some type of a security type of a thing or something. Just, I
yeah, that would
mean,
be nice. I could totally go for like a keypad entry gate or something.
Right, right,
Yeah, no,
you know,
I mean,
because I can't imagine, I mean, it's a big property. I mean, how do
right,
you monitor all that? And then, God
right, right.
forbid, you get somebody that's a cray cray that comes in there, and you're so
yeah,
isolated, or it's just you guys, Um,
yeah. I see everybody that comes and goes.
good.
Um, I definitely have the advantage, the bird's eye advantage with where the church is positioned. And, not just that, but because it is so quiet out here, um, I hear everything.
And you know
So
the
I
noise.
will hear somebody coming up the driveway long before we ever see them.
Right,
You could
right.
get some of
So
those those trail cams, that people use to put in their yard
we have
for like
cameras everywhere out
Yeah.
here.
Are
oh,
there? Okay, you have
good.
Yeah, we got cameras all over the place. So if anything ever did happen and we weren't here or we didn't know, we've got someone would be very stupid to try and do anything.
Awesome.
Right,
And
right,
I'm glad
right.
you're saying that because I
Yeah,
want people to hear that. I
yeah.
Yeah.
want people to hear that.
Right, right.
I mean, and
Yeah,
we've had situations where, a couple times late at night, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and somebody's been up on the hill or whatever. It's like we'll do a warning. We'll give people a warning, and if they don't leave, I'll let my dogs out.
right,
Ooh,
right.
let the
I have
dogs out. Ooh,
no problem with
ooh,
that at
ooh.
all. It's this is our home, regardless of the curiosity that people may have.
Right,
And I have a level of obligation to secure my property and protect my children, regardless of how old they are.
right.
And people need to respect that.
Absolutely.
And being in such a remote area, and I think that you do have some of that protection of the land itself. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, it's just living in town or living in a big city. Yeah, that's you can walk outside your door and it's scary in itself, but there's something to be
Yeah.
said for some being in the country or being out in the mountains or something like that. You know what I mean? It's that whole, I don't know what it is, but I feel safer when I'm in the mountains. You know what I mean? Like if I'm in Colorado or something like that. There's just something about the mountains that, and even the
Yeah,
land. You know.
it's so peaceful, it's so quiet,
Hmm.
and yeah, I'm more afraid of some of the living than I am the wild animals and
Right,
undead that are out
right,
here with me.
I agree.
right,
I'm from New
right.
Jersey. Can you only imagine? Like, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right, right.
the local authorities, are they supportive, or are they kind of
Well, I think so. I don't. I mean, we don't really interact with them a whole lot. I guess that's a good thing.
yeah, no, that's a good
Um,
thing.
but it's they know who we are and they know what's going on,
Mhm.
and so excuse me. Um, there has been a lot more patrol, I think, on the main road
Mhm.
than there has been in the past. So at least that's what I noticed. It seems like every time I'm leaving the property, I see a cop rolling by. So
Oh,
Well,
good.
that's good. That's good. Yeah. So at least you have that, and it's kind of a little bit of a, and when we talk about this stuff, we're not trying to freak you out. It's just some of us folk that are kind of in the city and big towns are kind of like we want to know how you handle all that. I mean, it's kind of like
yeah,
it's very
well,
it's very
not a
cool.
lot freaks me out. I can tell you that
Okay.
right now. Um, you know, we're pretty self-sufficient and protected up here. I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Right. 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 Right.
It would be a really sad day if somebody really wanted to get stupid up here. Um, because it's just not a good situation. And first of all, people, especially at night, they should not be roaming around up here.
Right.
Um,
Right.
because I do have a lot of mountain lions and bears are waking up, and it could be a
Is
bad
it
situation for somebody who thinks they're gonna cut through the tree line and try and
Right.
You got a
take
great
a peek.
security system.
Yeah. Right.
You have an awesome security system. Now that you
Yeah,
say
it's
that,
kind of nice actually.
Right. And how were all the people that the camera people and the producers and all the people that worked there? I mean, um, did you have anybody there that were just kind of like, why am I here? This isn't for me, or is it that's just what they do? I was curious about that.
I think that they have all worked on such a variety of projects that nothing phases them anymore.
Right. Right.
Um, we all talked, about different shows that they had worked on and the different crazy things that they had to do to get, specific shots and, in some really dicey, swampy locations. I don't think this was anything for them.
Right. 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 Yeah. Now, do you still talk to Sarah Lemos at all?
I have not spoken with Sarah for several weeks. But ironically, I just sent her a message earlier today, regarding a photo that somebody had sent me that really has me kind of disturbed. I just sent
Right.
it to her. I'm like, what do you make of this?
Right. Right.
And I have not heard back from her yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that you'll probably get a lot more of that. Especially when the summer months come. And I think it's now. You're still renting out the buildings. You're still having like your bed and breakfast is still up and going. And
Yes.
now was all of that shut down for the filming?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was just kind of
Yeah.
curious. I didn't know exactly if they kind of did they do it all in one swath, or did they do it, or did they break it up, or I mean, is it they were there for 2 months and then they left? you know.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. They were here for about that long and left, and then they would come back for a couple days and do some pickup shots. And so yeah, we had to
Right.
shut down. So definitely a big gamble on my part, because
Right. Right.
I had to shut down for 2 weeks and right at the end of peak tourism season. Um, so it was
okay, so
kind of scary.
if I'm not into the paranormal,
Uh-huh.
right? This might be a dumb question. Obviously, I don't get out much. I've only been to the West Coast once. I've been to Arizona. Is Montana West Coast or is that kind of in the middle?
It's
It's
more
up in the
west.
northwest.
Northwest. Okay.
Northwest, yeah.
Hmm.
So when you say tour season, what would someone so somebody would rent one of the cabins or one of the places for a week, like what tourism stuff other than paranormal would be an interest for
That's
somebody?
good question. A lot of people come here just because they want to disconnect. They want to escape, their concrete jungle life, their 24-hour life. They just want some peace and some quiet. We are very centrally located to endless outdoor activities. We're really close to Yellowstone, so
Oh,
some of
cool.
my guests will take a drive down to Yellowstone and come back. We
Mhm.
are, we're really close to Bannock Ghost Town and Garnet, and some very historical sites. So
Mhm.
people just kind of come out and do the tour. Um, or they just want to just get away and enjoy the mountains. They want to go hike. They want to, go fish. A lot of people want to come out here and fish.
Mhm.
And Montana is just really, you know, been put on the map lately with, the Yellowstone series and
Yes.
Mhm.
1883. And,
Yeah.
everybody wants to experience the Old West.
Ghost Town Terror. You can say it.
Yeah.
All those shows,
So,
all the good shows,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's beautiful out here. I mean, truly, it is God's country. There's a reason why they call it that, and it's just an amazing area.
Right.
um,
Right.
can I just ask one question, Jay? And then I don't
No,
know
go
what
ahead.
time
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
what would you say would be your most scariest experience, and then your most enlightening experience? Enlightened might be the wrong word, but
Yeah.
opposite of scary. What would you say would be your most? And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be limited to paranormal. It could be anything that you've experienced since you've had the place. You know,
Gosh. Well, the most scariest, I've had two incidences that were very frightening. The first one was right after we moved here, and it was really cold, and my dog was really, really sick, and so I needed to get him in the car and get him warmed up. And I fell asleep, and I actually had this in episode one. Um, I fell asleep, and I woke up because something was tapping on the window, like right at my head. And I kind of sat up and I looked around and I didn't see anybody, and kind of thought, well, maybe I'm just hearing this, and um, went back to sleep. And then it happened again, really loud. And at that point, I was kind of freaked out. And it had been snowing a lot. I mean, we had I don't know how many feet of snow. So I kind of open up my car door and I'm looking around. There's no footsteps anywhere. Everybody else is just like in their unit, passed out. So that really scared me.
mhm.
Um, and then just a couple
Why
of,
do you think that scared you? Why do you think that scared you?
it was very startling, and it was literally like the first week that we had moved out here.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So you weren't
Um,
familiar. You were. I mean, my first. I would have been scared because I'd have been like, "Holy crap! There's a person
yeah,
out."
it was like 4 a.m. It was
Yeah,
pitch black,
yeah,
and
that makes
it
sense.
it startled me awake for sure. But then like 2 months ago, I was taking a bath in the church, and I just had this feeling I was not alone. And I looked up and I saw a man standing in my doorway,
Oh.
and I had to tell him he had to leave. I
Oh,
had to actually tell him like 3 times, you need to go. This is my space. This is my personal space. And he
that's-
eventually did leave, but he was a full-on apparition standing right in my doorway.
Oh, wow.
do you think the activity there's kind of upticked since they filmed, and since have you seen an increase since that, or
No, I think it's been fairly consistent. I think the only thing that's really changed is if my new friend Tom is the one from Log Cabin, he has started to venture out and make himself known in other buildings.
Oh, okay.
interesting? It's
Right.
almost like he saw the light. Like he looked out and said, "Where are all these people going?" And like looks out and all of a sudden sees this whole nother.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Right?
down there and terrorize them.
Right. What
They're
kind
not
of
coming
trouble
in
can
here anymore.
Right. Yeah. So you would say probably without a doubt that this has been one of the best purchases that you could say.
This has honestly been the best decision I have ever made in my
Okay.
life, aside from
Okay.
having my children.
Right.
Yeah, I don't regret it at all. Even the hard things that we have to deal with, just, adapting to these winters and, all the work that's involved, and then just all the crazy paranormal stuff. Honestly, this has been like one of the best decisions that I could have made for the family.
How many
And,
buildings
and it
is it
was,
total? How many buildings is it total?
we got the 19.
19 buildings? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a town.
It is a little town. Yeah, it is totally set up like a little town. And, we always let people know, we always make really clear, that this is not a real town.
Right.
All these buildings were brought up here, and because we've had a couple people, try and call us out on that. And it's like, well, we've been very upfront about the fact that all these buildings have been hauled up here.
Right.
That's just interesting.
Many times.
Like, what was the purpose behind that? Somebody just wanted to start a town there?
That was a dude ranch wannabe, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. She wanted to create this little old West dude ranch. And so she just ran with this vision and made it happen. And, more power to her. I could have never pulled this off. There's no way I could have been able to do this.
Right. And you said it was like 20 years, wasn't it? Like 20 years plus that this has been.
Yeah, she started building this back in like 99, I think. Somewhere in there.
Are you looking to add to it, or are you good with what's there?
Yeah, I actually do want to add to it. And we had a couple of things lined up, but ever since COVID, the cost of getting a building moved now is just ridiculous. So then we thought, well, maybe we can dismantle it and rebuild it. And it all comes down to time and resources. And, there's just a handful of us up here, and it'll happen when it happens.
Well, listen, me and Jay will offer our time.
Yeah.
Get out there and help out.
You guys bring a big truck.
Yeah.
Get a big truck and a hammer, and we are golden.
All right.
Me, Jay, and Josh, I think he said. No.
Yeah. So I definitely want to come visit that place. I actually have to say, I had a dream of, I think this is before I even watched the first show. This was like right after I contacted you. I had a dream that I was in the upstairs bedroom, and there was another female. We were looking out the second floor window, and we were looking down, and something got my attention. And what I remembered was the wallpaper was different. It was weird. I turned around, and there was looked like a guy with not like a cowboy hat, but it was like a farmer's hat. And he was standing there, and he looked right at me, and he said, "Can you help me?" And then I woke up. And that has struck me like, oh my God, what was that? I was just like, I woke up and I was just like, okay. That image, I could describe the guy's teeth. That's how predominant that this image was.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, after you asked,
and there's a couple of buildings that actually fit that description very well.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Jay, good for you, Jay. Go, Jay. Go, Jay.
Yeah. So that's why I really want to visit. So.
Now, and this just must be me. This might be just me, and I'm not saying anything. But you don't have horses on the property, right?
I do.
Okay, so after Jay had asked me to co-host, I started to watch, and I fell asleep that night after watching. I was like binge watching, and I have never been on a ranch. I'm New Jersey. I mean, other than the fact that I'm in love with Gettysburg, I do want to move to Gettysburg.
I told you.
You are a city girl.
Well, I'm a city girl, right? So I fall asleep and I have this dream that I was literally on your ranch. It was hot as anything, and I'm in, and I remember that there was rain coming, and there was now not a regular size horse, but it was a miniature pony or a miniature horse. It was small, and I remember that I was now I'm an animal person, right? So always my dreams, whenever there's anything chaotic happening, I have to save animals in my dreams. I don't know why. So it was weird because the water was filling up inside this one. I don't know what you call where you it was a wooden the 3 wooden fence, but it was a big square. I don't know what you would call that, but it was filling up with water, and there was this miniature pony in there, or this miniature horse, and I'm like running, and I was like, I don't know what to do, and I jumped over the fence, and I jumped in there, and I got him. I was trying to round him up, and then I look over here, and there was chickens and roosters over here, and I'm like trying to run over there to get them because they were in the same predicament, and there was water in there. And I woke up, and I was like, holy crap.
Well, I do have a mini pony.
Stop it.
I have a mini pony, and I have a mini donkey.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny, because that's what I mean, it was just crazy. I was trying to save the mini pony, and then I was trying to save the chickens and the rooster. And the mini pony was the biggest thing, because that was like mostly the whole dream, you know?
Right.
So
the one thing that I did notice too was that since having talked to you, even though it was in text even before the show, and me experiencing that dream and that image being burnt in my mind in that sense, but I watch, I kind of follow the pages for your Gunslinger Gulch and your other terror page for the Ghost Terror. Anyways, so I follow that, and it's just like there's so much emotion on both of those pages, and it's crazy. There's so much energy coming from your place that, it's just, you know what I mean? I don't even know how to describe it, but there was a reason why I wanted to contact you and have you on the show, because I really wanted to get the background of the history of you and this town and your family, and and not to say bad things about the show, because I won't, but I'm just saying that could have been a side note. I would have been pleased just to hear the whole thing about the history of everything that you've done with the town and all the other stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah.
They barely touched anything.
Right.
Oh yeah,
they barely scratched the surface. So there is definitely a lot more story to be told.
Okay, I kind of figured that, but
how do your children handle all of this? I mean, from the beginning of getting in there, having these experiences, and now having TV and having the publicity, because your life changes almost overnight. Yeah, everybody's adjusting to it, very well. They get a kick out of it when we go into town or go out to eat, and somebody comes up and recognizes us, and they get a kick out of it. That's good.
Right.
That's good.
Right. Yeah. There's some people
I think they enjoy it sometimes a little too much.
Yeah. Where mom's kind of like, I want my privacy. Thank you.
And I'm
the one that's always sitting at the booth, all kind of buried in my phone, and somebody will walk up and be like, you look really familiar. And I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but people nowadays are so judgmental and so nitpicky. God forbid you eat eggs and you eat this or that, and somebody would be like, oh my gosh, I saw Karen and she was eating it. They could turn anything into anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
So I get
that's why that's why you still got to just keep being you, and just let the hate go.
We've always maintained a really low key, especially while we were doing this, because we couldn't talk about it while it was in the process, and so we always just kept a really low key, going into town, and so it's really easy for us to just try and blend in and try not to be seen. But yeah, it's we're just going through life same as we always have, I still will get up and go to the store and not brush my hair. I don't care.
Yeah, right,
Um,
right. Yeah,
Is,
just gotta
you know,
keep being you. You know.
is there
that,
a
and
chance-
of course, that's when people, oh, can I get your picture? No, I should have brushed my hair.
I would be the opposite. I'd be like, yeah, let's go, babies. Of course, I say that, but I'm not in that situation. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, right, right.
Is there a chance for next season?
There's
Can you
always
say
a
that?
chance.
There's always
There's
a chance.
always a chance.
I'm sure
Yeah.
fans would like to hear that. Yeah, sure. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think a lot of people would like to see a season 2.
Yeah. Well, especially like you said, they just touched the surface.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's so much history and so much information out there, and the energy is just.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's. I would one day hopefully be able to walk on that property and experience a lot of that. That would be really cool. But I just know that there's some things there that need to be discovered.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I would love to have you out and see if one of these units match up to your dream.
Yeah, that would be cool, Jay.
Oh yeah, I could pretty much describe it. So yeah, I would definitely know right away.
Besides the dogs, do like the pony? Does the pony do they react to anything being outside? Like, are you ever nervous about leaving them outside?
I haven't noticed anything with the livestock, with the horses, or the chickens. They're just all over the place, anyways. So if they experience something, I wouldn't even notice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you never heard them all freaking out at the same time, and then you go outside and there's nothing. I mean, obviously, it could be it could be a bear, it could be something. I know.
Yeah. Typically, it's a bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be kind of scary in itself too.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? But that's why I don't watch. I've never watched that Skinwalker Ranch thing because of all the animal stuff that happened on that property. I'm like, I can't watch.
Yeah.
No.
I haven't had TV for years.
Oh, wow.
I haven't had cable. I've just been like, oh, I'll just Netflix something or whatever. So obviously I had to sign up for Discovery Plus so I could watch my own show. And I discovered that Skinwalker.
Like, hey, Karen, we'll give you a free season.
Like, just like, can I get like a month pass or something?
Right.
I discovered that Skinwalker Ranch show, and I've started watching it. I just my attention span is just not there because I'm usually running at 100 miles an hour. But I've always been fascinated about it. I was just like, it's just one of those like super creepy places I'd love to go to.
Do you find any similarities between your place and there? I mean,
I've only gotten to like 2 episodes so far, so
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
But I've watched various shows on it, like on 411 and a couple YouTube things, and yeah, it's fascinating. I just have morbid curiosity, just like people have about this place, though.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we've an hour and a half. Sweet. Wow. I would really like to thank my guest, Karen Broussard. Thank you so much. This has been a fabulous conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and I would like to thank my guest co-host, Taryn from Paranormal Brew. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay, for asking me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So, if anybody has not discovered the Travel Channel show, The Ghost Town Terror with Karen Broussard, then you are under a rock. So, you can check it out. It's on Discovery Plus. Plus, it's on demand. You can watch it under Ghost Town Terror. So everybody check it out. Check out the history and a little bit of the paranormal stuff on the town. I'm sure that there's probably more to come on that. We hope.
I'm sure.
We want,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I'm sure.
So we want to. I also wanted to mention that you are the owner of Gunslingers Gulch, the bread and breakfast, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if anybody is curious about that, you can look onto Facebook and find the Gunslingers Gulch. It's a bed and breakfast. You could book, book for the summer if they're not doing anything, TV wise. Please, by all means, check it out. Stay there. I've read a lot of good comments about that place, so make sure you check that out as well. And we want to thank everybody else for tuning in. We've had probably a very large group of people that have tuned in consistently for the hour and a half. So
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very, very happy for that. So on behalf of Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast, I want to thank you again, Karen, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
Yes, and we will talk to you guys next week. Let's see.